is Roman, and you're watching my review for the Rad Mission One e-bike. Let's get to it. Alright, so in this review video, it'll be under 3 parts. The first part is in the perspective of somebody who wants to buy the bike for no particular reason other than the fact that it is a new bike, it is very affordable, and it's the best kind of bang for buck bike. So that's the first part of the review. Second part of the review is for somebody who wants it to do some exploring. It is a value bike, and see kind of how it performs in more of an off-road environment if you want to be hunting or doing some nature photography. And then the third option is for somebody who wants it for commuting, as I will be using it in the upcoming semester for school. And I'll be looking at it in that way, and I'll be judging it in 5 categories. First one is comfort, second one is handling, third one is weight, fourth one is brakes, and the fifth one is just overall enjoyment of the bike. As I put it, this section is going to be for somebody who wants to buy the bike because it's a new bike. It is an e-bike. It's probably the best bang for buck e-bike that you can buy in 2020 or 2021 right now. Somebody who wants it as a fun bike that they can kind of go out with their kids, go to the park, maybe do some errands, go to Walmart. I think it's a fantastic bike. I rode it all around here in Adriatic Village. But in the first category of comfort, I would really give it, if I could, like a 1 out of 10. It is a fully framed e-bike. I have the male version with no front suspension, there is no rear suspension. So I personally spent $20 out of my money to purchase just kind of a dropper seat post, and it is the cheapest one that I found on Amazon, and even that helps a ton for comfort. I have no way to kind of give any suspension to the front forks, but as long as you're really riding on the road and you have a dropper seat post, it kind of bumps up to like a 4 or 5, depending on how good your seat post is. But in terms of just out of the box comfort, even with my time riding it before I added this seat post, it was just, unless it was on a road, any sort of sidewalk or grass, just not possible, not comfortable at all. Know that you're gonna have to invest in a dropper seat post when you purchase the bike, because there's no way, unless you stand the whole way, it is not comfortable. And even after a little bit, I was starting to get like pain in the bottom of my body, the best way to put it. So a dropper seat post is needed to bump that up to like a 4 or 5 in terms of comfort. But in regards to the ergonomics of the bike are fantastic. In terms of that, if you have, say, a higher end drop seat post, this bike could be actually very comfortable because the way the grips are set up, it just fits perfectly in your hand. And even the brake levers have kind of like a rubber outside texturing. So the front of the bike is very comfortable. You do have adjustability on the height of the seat post. That's pretty typical for a bike, but that's kind of what I'd give it in terms of comfort. Now in terms of handling, I would say that the Rad Mission One is pretty good. It's probably one of the best bikes that I've ridden. Granted, I'm used to riding mountain bikes. I've never really had like a kind of a street bike before, and this is definitely a street bike. This is in no way a outdoorsy bike, but we'll get into that. But in terms of maneuverability and handling, I think it handles great on kind of the thinner tires that Rad has put on it. They're usually a lot thicker tires is what Rad puts on their Rad Rover, Rad Mini. They always run those kind of fat bike tires, but with this kind of new street tire, I can't remember, I think it's like 1.5 inches, around 2 inches, the width of the tire. Handles perfectly, tires are great. So in that regard, it doesn't handle clunkily, it doesn't handle, not too bad really with how much it weighs in terms of just being a regular bike that you're gonna ride. So handling, I'd probably give it about 6 or a 7. It is pretty good. You can really flick that thing around, but I wouldn't start dragging any knees on it, so. Now, for the third category, weight. Coming from a mountain bike background to an e-bike, it was a stark difference. Even with this being Rad's lightest option for an e-bike, it was just so weirdly heavy, especially in the rear where the motor sits. So if you're not used to e-bikes, this is your first e-bike like it is mine. And this is supposed to be one of the lightest e-bikes. Granted, this doesn't have front forks. This is no rear suspension. This is about as light of a bike as you can get. The whole frame is aluminum. So with this being a light bike and an electric bike, it still feels heavy, especially when you don't have like a proper grip on it, when you're kind of forced to compromise your grip to lift it up. Even, you know, granted, I'm not the strongest guy, and I'm not the weakest guy, it still feels heavy. You're not gonna like be used to the weight in terms of lifting it up. Say you need to go upstairs or go to your apartment. It does feel heavy. I know the ads say that it's the lightest bike and people are lifting it up, no problem. You can't lift it for more than a while unless you are avidly working out. And but in terms of just somebody who wants to just ride it around, it is pretty heavy if you need to lift it, or if you need to pedal home with no battery. It does feel heavy. And in comparison to my dad's mountain bike, it's just night and day. Granted, the mountain bike's just a regular bike and this is an e-bike. You totally feel the difference, and the weight difference is drastic. So in terms of weight, I'd probably have to give it a 5 in just terms of just somebody who wants to get into the e-bike game. But when compared to other e-bikes, this is the lightest. So there's that. And now for the fourth category, brakes. So the Rad Mission One comes with disc brakes. They're not hydraulic, but I think that is totally fine on a bicycle. I've never ridden a hydraulic bicycle before. I'm used to having those on motorcycles. So with this bike being a e-bike with disc brakes, I feel like the brakes are perfectly suitable for everyday conditions. I think they're even better than average. These are some fantastic brakes with great feel and great adjustability. And the fact that you have disc brakes with brake pads, good width. I'm really impressed with these brakes. They stop you on a dime like that. And granted, you could always lock up the front, lock up the rear if you had to, or if it came down to it, if you just hold down the grips. So in terms of great braking, I'd probably have to give it a 7 or an 8. I really enjoyed the brakes on this bike. I feel like it stops it, especially since it is as lightweight as it is in terms of an e-bike. It really does a good job in halting the bike at a rapid rate, especially if you're going 20 miles an hour, which is the max speed on the bike. So I really enjoyed the brakes. I feel like they do a great job of stopping the bike. So can't complain there. I feel like the brakes for the average person are more than enough to satisfy anybody. I've never felt that they were lacking or I needed more braking power. So I'm really happy with the brakes that Rad has put on the e-bike. Now, finally, for the last category, overall enjoyment of riding. So this bike has been just a joy to ride, to get the mail, go to the store, go to the park. It is super cool. There is no other way to put it. I personally bought the bike for, you know, the fact that it's electric, it's modern, it looks great. So I'm really happy with the bike so far, but with the addition of the dropper seat post, it changed everything. If I never added it and just kept the hard seat post, it would be a different experience. It would not be very comfortable. But the fact that I added it and I kind of adjusted it to my weight, it has made a huge difference. It is rideable and enjoyable. So that is one thing that is a must for anybody in any condition with this bike, is to add the dropper seat post. And I personally added some racks and bags, which I will go on about in a separate video. But in terms of somebody who just wants to buy the bike as a fun 2020 e-bike that is affordable, which is good money for value, I feel like it is a solid option and one that you really can't go wrong. And we'll have to wait and see on how these bikes perform over the years and in terms of resale value. But brand new from Rad. I have really been enjoying it, so I have no complaints there, except for the fact you need to add the dropper seat post. I cannot stress that enough. Know that you have to buy it. It is essential to this bike. Without it, it's not gonna be too fun. So with that being said, that was this section of the review, and I hope you guys enjoyed it with the drone footage and everything. So thank you all so much for watching this section, and let's move on to the next one.